I wasn't always a white mage. In fact, I tried every single healer in Final Fantasy XIV, and I've fallen in and out of love with all of them over the years, for different reasons. Each healer has its strengths, and I guess you could say weaknesses, but I like to think of them more as challenges. The question is, which one is right for you? Well, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have an answer, or at the very least, a place to start. So how do we decide which one to play? Well, let's talk about them. Quick disclaimer though, this video is based on my opinion, which means it's influenced by my personal experiences and skill level. As such, not everyone's going to agree with it, as we've all had different personal experiences that may change how we view things. So if you have more information to share or think I may have missed the mark on something, I encourage you to share it in the comments so players can see the jobs from all perspectives. Let's make better healers. For the sake of this video, I'm going to call the healers by their jobs and not their classes, and this discussion is going to primarily focus on healers as a whole and take the full kit into consideration. Currently, there are 3 healers in the game, with a 4th on the way, but for now, let's focus on the 3. We'll start off this short list with the only healer you can play at the beginning of the game, White Mage. White Mage is team regen and also the easiest healer to pick up and play. It's the most straightforward and has the easiest gauge mechanic. For my baby sprouts that don't know what I mean when I say gauge mechanic, each job has a special gauge or gimmick unique to them. For White Mage, it's their lilies, for Astro, it's their cards, and for Scholar, it's their fairies. During battle, gauges will build up over time and allow healers to execute exclusive abilities, but we'll get into each unique gauge in the job-specific videos coming up. Right now we're focused on universal concepts and the general feel of a job. White Mage is an absolute powerhouse in both healing and DPS, and when needed, they can put out some impressive continuous healing. In addition to this raw power, White Mage also boasts some amazing MP management tools. So at this point you're probably asking, if White Mage is so great, why play the other healers? Despite its power, White Mage has some drawbacks. One is that it's pretty darn selfish compared to its co-healers. White Mage doesn't offer the party anything outside of its healing, mitigation, and damage, so it really needs to get those things right at end levels in order to be pulling its weight, and all of that power comes at the cost of your mobility and time. These powerhouse spells take a long time to cast. In fact, most of the time, your entire global cooldown, which makes weaving in OGCDs and moving out of attacks incredibly difficult without interrupting your cast. And while it might not be a big deal to get interrupted every now and then, it can really add up over time. Another thing to note is that White Mage can be kind of one note, and what I mean by that is you don't have the variety of skills that the other jobs have, but to its credit, it doesn't need them. Like I said, White Mage's strength is its raw power, so while White Mage may be the easiest healer to pick up, it can be a little difficult to optimize. And if you're not working efficiently at later levels, you may feel like you lack the tools to get the job done in comparison to Scholar or Astrologian. Now, if you're not worried about optimization and you're not worried about maximizing your DPS, White Mage is a simple healer to get through the normal content and have fun with. If you've played healer in other games, it may also feel the most familiar as it focuses on the basics. Its straightforward gameplay and powerful spells make it incredibly beginner-friendly, so long as you don't mind the long cast times and somewhat restrictive movement. Astrologian, on the other hand, is the fastest caster among the healers, lending it to be the king of weaving and movement. It's also the buffer healing class. If you like to keep busy and you like supportive roles, Astrologian is the class for you. You'll always find yourself doing something, and it excels at party utility through its damaging buffs. While it may not put out the same amount of personal damage as a White Mage, its rave buffs make up for it. If you've got a good group with a solid grasp on fight mechanics and their rotations, those cards can really lift the group's overall DPS, and possibly push your contribution to DPS over a White Mage's. But again, that's dependent on how well the team uses your buffs, whereas White Mage is self-dependent. The other great thing about Astrologian is its versatility. Currently, Astrologian is the only healer that can stance dance between shields and regen. That being said, the class is about to undergo some major changes once Endwalker releases, so keep an eye out for the new guides once the specific job changes are announced. So it's fast, it's helpful, and it's got a great healing kit. Why doesn't everyone play it? Well, it's not very beginner friendly. I wouldn't say it's overcomplicated, it's definitely not, so don't let that scare you away. But it does have the most complex healer gauge of the healers, and the gameplay can feel a little overwhelming for first-time healers still trying to learn just how to heal a party. Astro also starts at level 30 and doesn't have that beginner class option, so you're not getting the gradual build-up from Arcanist and Conjurer, so you're having to learn all those abilities at once. But this is from a beginning healer perspective. If you're a seasoned healer from other games and you already have the basics under your belt, this class can offer fast-paced gameplay and might do a better job at keeping you occupied. That leaves Scholar. Scholar is like the Swiss Army knife of healing for me. I feel like I never run out of options when it comes to healing on Scholar, and it excels at outright damage mitigation in the form of shielding magic. Scholar is also the pet class healer and gives you access to a cute little fairy that heals with you and complements your abilities. Did I mention the fairy never runs out of MP? Don't get too excited though. She's not exactly carrying you at endgame, but she sure is helpful. So let's touch on that mitigation aspect. White Mage and Astrologian do have mitigation abilities, but they don't come close to Scholar, and those shields can help players progress through high-level content and save the team from boss moves that would normally one-shot a party during minimum eye-level progression. And really, there's something so satisfying about protecting your tank from taking any damage at all. Scholar also brings a little raid utility with Chain Stratagem, an ability which increases the party's chance to do critical damage against a target. So amazing healing, solid MP management, cute fairy sidekick, decent mobility, and some raid utility. I mean, why would you even consider the other healers? While Scholar does help with raid DPS, it doesn't quite reach the potential of Astrologian's cards, and its personal DPS doesn't keep up with the White Mage's. Now, I know not everyone embraces the healer DPS meta, and that's okay, I'll move on into healing. When it comes to healing, Scholar has endless options, and can put out some really great buffs and heals, but it doesn't have the raw, consistent power of a White Mage, and it's going to have to work harder and use more abilities to match it. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's just something to consider. Last but not least, let's talk about the cute fairy sidekick. The fairy's awesome, but it's another thing you have to manage, including the toolbar for pet commands, and sometimes it can be a little clunky and slow. And if you're new to healing, having to manage yourself and your fairy may seem overwhelming. If you're the kind of player that likes having all the options and enjoys finding the best way to use them, the strategic aspect of Scholar may be just the right fit for you, and it's also a nice middle-of-the-road difficulty between White Mage and Astrologian. As you can see, each healer has its strengths and challenges, but I want to stress that all of them are viable options in every piece of content, and it really just comes down to which style you like best. So play around with them, and find the one that's right for you, and if at the end of the day you're still looking for that perfect fit, hang in there, Eorzean, Sage is right around the corner. That's all for this video. I'm Tali with Everyday Eorzean. Take care, Eorzeans. I'll see you next time.